So let's get going. If we move on to the next slide, you can see the agenda of the webinar. 5 parts. We'll spend the bulk of our time on parts 3 and 4, getting into some of the meat of our work on analytics for cross-sell and upsell. And we'll finish in about 40 minutes, absolutely no more than 45 minutes, but we'll aim for 40 minutes. So introductions to who's talking. Well, you can see myself. I'm a director at Delta and working across a number of areas of our research, but particularly on our digital research. And Susan Fennell. Sue, would you like to introduce yourself and say a few words about your background?
Hello, yes. Welcome everybody. I spent a lot of my background in the telecoms and strategy consultancy industry, and then I moved into NPower to lead their smart strategy team. And one of the big projects I did was looking at data-driven customer engagement and what you could do with smart meter data and how you could transform the customer relationship to better improve net promoter score and churn and possibly cross-sell. And then I've also been focusing a lot on connected home, and it's in those two contexts that I've been doing a lot of work with Delta.
Thanks very much, Sue. And you can also see at the bottom of the slide other members of our customer data analytics research team. Moving on to the next slide. So you are able, even though we've got you on mute, we find that works best to cut out background noise. You can talk with us electronically, so using the questions box or the chat feature. Please don't hesitate to send a message to us or a question. We'll try and get to your questions as you send them through. Any that we don't get to, we'll follow up with you afterwards. If you use the question box, that only comes to us. If you use the chat feature box, you need to select the right option so it comes to us only. And please don't hesitate to get in touch with us afterwards as well. A very, very quick summary about Delta for those of you that don't know us. You can see our mission in the top left, which is helping the energy sector navigate the transition to what we think of as a new energy future. And we do this in a number of ways. We have several different subscription research services. We're talking today about our research from the Customer Data Analytics Service. We carry out consulting. We work with over 100 clients in the energy and related sectors. And we hold a number of summits, invitation-only meetings. If you are interested in our Customer Data Analytics event that we'll be holding at the end of February, do get in touch with us. It will be invitation only, but please let us know if you'd like to attend. And we'll be sending out more details of that in the next weeks. So that will be in February 2017, the day before our Connected Homes Summit. So our work on customer data analytics. This slide here is a framework we've developed that provides some structure for our research on this topic. Our hypothesis is that the winners in the energy sector will increasingly be companies that can best understand, relate, engage, and sell to their customers. And we've identified a number of profit levers across the top where we think data analytics can be used to create value. At the bottom you can see some of the data inputs that we see can be used for that analytics, so not just the energy data but a whole variety of other forms of data. And boxes B and C help frame some of our research into how companies are approaching analytics and the different analytics solutions that are being used. And in the middle you can see the range of companies that we're talking with and working with to help them generate value from analytics. You can see more about this on our website or contact us if you're interested to learn more about this framework. One thing we have just carried out is a survey of many different European utilities and one Australian one on how they're engaging with data analytics. So we're shortly going to be sharing some of this insight. Register on our website for data analytics if you want to make sure you receive it. This is one of the questions, and it's looking at what's driving utility. This is just for utilities at the moment, this question. What's driving utilities engagement in data analytics? maybe it's not that surprising that their core focus is on their core business, so retaining and acquiring energy supply customers. What's interesting for us is that pretty much every European energy company now has a strategy. Maybe that's a bit of a generalization, but I think it's most energy companies have strategies to develop revenues and profits at the customer end of the value chain, given they see the revenues and profits in the generation business coming under pressure. But you can see that the focus on cross-selling, on new revenues, is not nearly as high as the focus on acquisition and retention. We believe generating new revenues will be a critical part of an energy company's future, hence our focus on this topic. So moving now from that, I guess, backdrop to cross-sell and upsell. We'll speak briefly about the importance of upsell. And Sue, I'll hand over to you if you want to say a few words about the different things that a utility can cross-sell and upsell.
Yes, I'd be happy to. So I think the first thing to say is that there's very much more opportunity than many utilities and boiler companies necessarily think there are. And you can start with a number of verticals like finance or heating or connected home or insurance. And in each of those, there's usually a product that's very close to the core product so that the stretch is not too far. So for example, in insurance, we're all familiar with boiler cover or white goods and plumbing cover. In heating, the boilers themselves and demand response are close to the core business. And then moving further out, though, once you've got brand a stretch into things like boilers, there's nothing to stop you moving into insulation or air conditioning or other energy efficient white goods. So you can move along a vertical step by step as you introduce new products. The other interesting thing is that there are pivot products that allow you to move from one vertical to the other and to cross-sell that way. So for example, let's take the case of the thermostat, which is clearly, a smart thermostat clearly is a good way of improving the efficiency of heating in a home by making sure that when a house is not occupied, it's not heated and that sort of thing. But the thermostat is also a classic smart home product, and it also fits well into other adjacent smart home products like home security and peace of mind, like video cameras to check whether the nanny is doing their job. And so the thermostat, if you enter it with the permission of energy efficiency, is also a good way into connected home. And then another example of a pivot product is probably boiler cover policies. So they're essentially insurance products, or at least the way some companies like British Gas have implemented them, they're an insurance product. And then once you've done that, you kind of have permission to start moving along the insurance value chain. So British Gas is an example of a company that has then moved from boiler cover policies into actually offering full home insurance. So this is to really say that your brand can stretch both along individual verticals like finance and heating and connected home and insurance, and also that you can identify pivot products that allow you to jump from one vertical to another.
Thanks, Sue. And to some more traditional energy companies who only sell commodity, some of these services may look a bit far-fetched. I don't know of any utility yet selling washing powder, as at the very top of the slide, but that's pretty much the only product, and maybe some of the wearables, baby alarm, smart kettles, they're the only products where we see utilities or energy companies, some traditional, some not traditional, not being active. So
can I chip in on that point? Because I had a very interesting conversation with an energy company a few days ago, and they are their energy efficiency product that is being trialed by Tesco, who are using it to see when a dishwasher has done 50 washes, and they're trialing using that to order another 50 dishwasher tablets. So that's an example of how you can partner and perhaps get a slice of the cross-sell through partnering with a retailer.
There you go. So maybe very shortly there'll be nothing on this list that an energy company isn't doing, but plenty that an energy company could do. If we move on now to looking at how analytics can help with all of this. When we've, over the last several months, been looking at this topic and looking at how analytics can be used to cross-sell and upsell, we've been doing this very much bottom-up. So we've had many, many tens of conversations with energy companies, cable TV companies, internet travel companies, all sorts of different companies looking at how they're using analytics to cross-sell and upsell. We've been talking with vendors, we've been talking with established solution providers, new entrants who are just making their mark on the sector, others who've got ideas that they're planning to launch. So we've developed a really wide set of insights and knowledge on what's being done and what could be done and our views on what might be possible. What we've then done is develop a framework to help make sense of all of that and to help provide our subscribers with inspiration, structure to use analytics themselves, or better use analytics themselves. So on the next slide here, you can see the Delta cross-sell and upsell analytics framework. What we'll do is talk through this, or Sue primarily will talk through this. We'll go through each one of these 5 boxes, and then we'll move on to some examples. Sue, over to you.
So our framework has 5 types of cross-sell and upsell. The first is simple campaign return on investment. Now, we all know that the ideal in marketing is to segment your customers so that you get a higher take-up on the campaign. I mean, that's kind of noddy. The interesting thing is that recently many companies are trying to go a step further, and rather than create segments of, say, 6 to 10 groupings of customers, they're looking to actually predict which customer is going to take a particular product and to give each customer a percentage score. And then they can order and rank the customers by the percentage likelihood to respond to the campaign. And then they can say, well, again, if the probability is 60% and the benefit would be, say, £200, then the net benefit is 60% times £200. And is that bigger or less than the incremental cost of putting each new customer on the campaign? And that way they can work out where to stop the campaign at the optimum number, and to make sure that they've only gone to the most likely customers to adopt the campaign. Now, these predictive models can be done in a very simple way, or they can be done in a more complex way, so there's kind of range of sophistication there. But that's what that is about. The next thing you can do is to say, moving to...
Sorry, Sue. I guess one thing to say here is that there's a whole spectrum of simple to complex. We first wrote simple campaign ROI, and many utilities we talk to, or energy retailers, Sue, I guess say they have propensity models already. Yes, but your point being that a simple propensity model is very different from best practice propensity model.
Yes.
And this is some of the breakdown here. Does that help to talk around, Sue?
Yes, perfect. Thank you. So the first thing you can do is to predict the likelihood of them taking a product and rank the customers according to the way I just said, and then determine the optimum number of people in the campaign. The next thing you can do is to actually say, well, if customers took these products, the next product they're most likely to take is this. And to put those kind of customers into a campaign like that. That's using a different type of statistical model. It's using the Amazon type technique, as opposed to segmentation and likes and dislikes. The other thing you can do is to say, well, we're going to make our customers, we're going to compete campaign by campaign for the customers that we're allowed in the campaign, and that way we don't email a customer with 20 campaigns. We basically only match customers to the campaigns that they're most likely to respond to, and the benefit of that is that you the benefit of that is that you get a higher take-up, and also you don't annoy the customers, so the net promoter score is better and they feel that you better understand their needs. The other thing you can do is to predict new life stages, and we'll come to this later, but a company called Target is doing that in the States. And they're able to see by the types of products purchased, they're able to predict that a customer is now pregnant. And other people are doing similar things. So, and if an energy company knows that somebody is now married or now has children or something like that, then their energy needs and comfort needs at home might change. So you would be able to sell a different category of products into that. And then the last thing you can do is behavioral nudges. So you can present tailored data to customers. For example, you can say that company homes like you took this product, or homes like you benefited this much by taking this product. And that's a sort of tailored message that helps nudge them to do something on the campaign.
So, and you can see by the orange circles, or the partly filled in orange circles, that there's a lot the energy sector is doing here in this campaign ROI, but we think there's a huge amount more that could be done to better cross-sell and upsell products to customers. If we move on now to the second category, Sue, do you want to say a few words about that one?
Yes. So if the first box is about getting customers, getting more customers to adopt a campaign because you can predict whether or not they were likely to take a product, this is taking it a step further and saying we can actually predict how much benefit a customer would get from a product, and we're going to tell them that, and we're going to use that to build trust, and by building trust to get more customers to take the product. So there's an example of a couple of energy companies. One is a QB subsidiary called Dulo, and then there's a French company called Quivivo, and they interpret the temperature in the house of the thermostat or of another device in the house, and they correlate that with external weather and some other information, and they're able to predict how insulated or draft-proof a house is, or how poorly the heating system is used. And they're using that to cross-sell. In the case of Dulo, it's trying to cross-sell thermostats successfully with an Echo in a trial. And in the case of Quivivo, they're trying to cross-sell double glazing and insulation and other things. And then there are other kinds of companies like Solar City, who are trying to cross-sell a much broader array of services by not just looking at temperature data, but also energy audit data that they do.
And I think what's fascinating is that companies you mentioned, Sue, for example, are doing that using temperature data that they're measuring inside the house. There's another company that's using a building physics model without getting temperature data from the house, but through the physical properties of the house that it's getting from public sources of data, to run their building physics model to predict what the saving would be for each customer if they had a smart thermostat. So that comes, if you remember the value framework slide I showed earlier, the data box at the bottom. If you're creative and open with your thinking about the different data sources, then actually there's a whole range of possibilities to help tailor business cases or quotes to customers. We move on now to marketing.
Yes, absolutely. So the idea of this category is very much along the lines that utilities, as they seek to cross-sell, don't need to do everything themselves. So often utilities or energy companies are reluctant to cross-sell other products because they're worried that there'll be too much loss of focus with the core business. But this is a means by which other people can do the work, and you can still get some benefit. So the marketplaces we've identified exist in a couple of different ways. One is a marketplace, for example, of installers or energy efficiency providers. So Solar City quickly realized that the range of efficiency measures it was able to cross-sell with the data it had were not implementable by its internal workforce. They were too broad for any small internal workforce. So they contracted with lots of external companies, and when the user said that they wanted a measure, it went out to a marketplace of installers, and it actually booked an appointment, I think. And when I had a conversation with a double glazing company, they actually said that if a system were capable of booking a lead for them, that could be worth many, many tens of pounds. So it could be quite lucrative even if somebody else is doing the work. Another kind of marketplace is provided by a company called Energy, and they have found a way to re-rate appliances according to energy efficiency, and to give the utility a reason to be in a conversation about that. And they provide lots of white good appliances from all the different online retailers at the best price, and allow the user to click through. So that the user starts in a conversation with the utility and then ends up on this e-commerce site of appliances where the right to play for the utility to even be passing them to a utility branded e-commerce site is the energy efficiency rating. And then when the user clicks through, they get what's called a marketing affiliate fee.
And that's quite successful with one utility in the States, and interestingly, E.ON has taken a stake in that company in Innovi. Sue, just for clarification, on the slide we've got the acronym SKU. Could you explain that?
It's a SKU is a type of product. Actually, I'm not sure what it stands for, but everybody in the industry uses it for how many types of product have you got. So, you know, a computer manufacturer might have like thousands of SKUs, as in individual PCs or computers, whatever. So this, you know, washing machines. Each washing machine is a SKU, or each dishwasher is a SKU.
Thanks, Sue. Keeping on time, if we go fairly quickly through the next two, because we have a guest speaker that we want to bring into the conversation in a minute. So, Sue, if we skip through dynamic action and the fifth category.
Absolutely. So if we just go back to 1 and 2 for a moment, I was explaining there that you can predict which customers are going to take a product, and you can make a good business case to them to take it. But this is all non-real time in 1 and 2. 4 is taking that now one step further into a real-time scenario where you actually change what you're going to do for your customer in real time. So, for example, a call comes into the call center, and based on lots of analysis about what products you think they're going to take or whether you think they're going to churn, the call center agent could be given a choice of 5 things to do in order of the most likely best next action for that customer based on the data, and it will probably and it could recommend the right product to recommend to that customer. And there's variations on that. You can also do that with behavioral messages. This is also being used in churn management as well, but that's for another day. And then the bundling item is we uncovered a sophisticated use of data analytics to come up with bundles in a cable operator, and the cable operator has to work out how many products to put in each bundle, how many bundles to have, and what the optimum pricing of each bundle is, so that people adopt bundles and can be moved from one bundle to a more expensive bundle. And it transpires that state of the art in doing this is analyzing vast amounts of big data, like all the internet patterns correlated with the TV that they're watching, and correlated with all sorts of other activity in the house, plus what they know about wealth and all sorts of things. And this is a colossal task. It's so big it takes 6 months to extract the data and another 6 months to process it. And they've got a university team as well as external strategy consultants all blended with their in-house team doing this. So this is a colossal exercise, and this can help to predict what the right products are in the bundle and what the right prices are of the bundles. And therefore to maximize revenue.
Thanks, Sue. So you'll be getting the feeling that there's tons we can talk about on these 5 different elements of the framework. In each of the 5 elements in our research and our report on this topic, we've got many examples and a lot more depth we're digging into. And thanks to the clarification from one Delta colleague and one listener, SKU stock keeping unit. So there's that acronym demystified. This slide here, I think we'll skip through it. What it helps to show is you can see the 5 elements along the bottom. Sophistication generally goes left to right from 1 through to 5. But also each element has different layers of sophistication from basic through to sophisticated. So it's not a simple spectrum of simple on the left, complex on the right. Within each of these elements, we've looked at ways to do them simply or ways to do them in a very sophisticated way that will generate more value and more profit. I'd like to move on now to the examples. So can I check that we've got Claire from Ben Energy able to speak and on the line? Hello, Claire.
Hi, John.
Hi, welcome to the webinar, Claire.
Thanks, John.
So Claire is from a Swiss-German-based consultancy, Ben Energy, that is set up, I guess, Claire, specifically to help energy companies with data analytics. Would that be the correct description?
Yeah, that's correct. Only that we are not a consultancy, but more like a product company. We offer software. But yeah, consultancy is often a part of our service.
Great. So your mission is to help energy companies implement analytics and create the best value possible.
Yeah, correct.
So Ben Energy was one of the many companies I mentioned earlier that we've talked with, and I guess we've highlighted Ben Energy and invited Claire not because we specifically recommend or endorse, but because we think their example illustrates a lot of the value that can be created with analytics. Sue, I'll pass back to you and let you introduce a bit about what we liked about Ben Energy's work and ask Claire for some of her thoughts and opinions on the topic.
Sure. Hi, Claire. The first case study that we encountered with Ben Energy was this interesting one of where they worked for a Belgian utility in trying to help them cross-sell more boilers. And as I understand it, the utility already had an in-house prediction model that would predict for the campaign which customers would take the boilers. But you sought to see if you could do a better prediction model. And I'd just like to say for the audience, the way the crudest possible prediction models work is that you basically take a ton of data that you have about the customer and you feed it into perhaps a software tool like SAS, and it finds correlations with the help of the data analyst. And coming up with a model is not that hard. And then once you've managed to fit the model to the historic data and run some tests, some additional historic data and prove or disprove the results and improve the model, you can then apply that to predicting the future. But that only gives you, so that gives you a model. But Claire, you were seeking to create not just a model, but a much better model. Could you explain to the audience where the art of data science comes in, and also where more science can be applied in order to get a better type of algorithm out?
Yeah, so I think what's really crucial here in order to be able to predict behavior is first to understand human behavior. So that's why we're actually working closely with psychologists on our team. Because you need to understand what are the factors that affect behavior in order to search for the right data and model behavior correctly. And then it also helps to understand the domain, like the energy market. So for example, that you know a lot about consumption and what consumption is too high or too low. So in order to create effective business rules and also clean and prepare the data. So I think this is where knowledge really is important. And then science actually helps in order to not just identify customers, in this case with old heating systems, like finding customers in the data, but really to find factors that actually are able to predict, because otherwise, you're just focusing on finding cases. It's easier to explain with churn. So sometimes if you just take, let's say, a simple random forest model and it does everything basically automatically, but then you cannot really be sure, is it really predictive? Is there a causal relation between like the factors that profile that customer and then the churn? Or is it more like a correlation? So you don't really know, is it like causal or not? So that's why I think science is important, where you actually conduct experiments. So first create hypotheses, then conduct experiments, and then check against control groups what the effect of the different levels basically is.
Thank you. And I'd like to illustrate to the audience one of the things that you came up with that made the difference to how smart this algorithm was. On the next slide, John, could you go to that? John?
There we are. Oh, we should be just moving forward now.
Claire, I was about to describe how you came up with the idea of comparing and contrasting a user's energy spend with their neighbours and using that to predict the age of the boiler. I think this is really important because if as a utility what you had done was to throw all the stuff in your database at a SaaS model, that come up with a model, you wouldn't have had that bit of data in the first place to throw at the model, and therefore you would have come out with a good but not a brilliant algorithm. Now you had the insight to do this additional piece of analysis, which is in the highlighted feature extraction bit. Could you explain how, what happened in the process that allowed you to kind of have that aha moment that this would be a useful thing to add? Because without that piece of genius, that would have been lost.
Yeah, I think so. We've been working for I think 10 years now on our energy analytics platform, and we've started in research basically, and did a lot of experiments on human behavior and, for example, what factors drive human behavior. And we also did a lot of studies on providing feedback to see how people react to that feedback and how we should design that feedback in order to be effective. And there we found out that humans really look to what other relevant people around them are doing, not just friends, family, but also their neighbors. And then that's how we got the idea to derive that feature from the data that the utility already has, basically.
Right, and then what you were able to see was that if my boiler degrades faster than my neighbour's boiler over time, that probably suggests I've got an older boiler. And I think that that's inspired taking the OPOW style behavioural analysis and actually applying that in a different way to saying, well, actually, we can use my home against yours over time, and then use that to show it's an old boiler. And obviously, if somebody has an old boiler over 10 years, which is what this was predicting, then they're more likely to buy a new boiler. And the other thing I liked very much about Ben Energy is that you were able to go in and do a project for a company. So presumably, if a company is kind of starting out and not really knowing how to start on data analytics or on a topic, you can go in and you can do an outsourced project and prove to them the benefits. So rather than them sitting in front of a spreadsheet trying to invent a business case where every single item on the business case is a complete guess and there's no idea. But that's the problem I had when I was trying to do this. So I'm speaking for myself and having done this in a prior lifetime. When you actually outsource a project like this, you're actually able to use real data to then generate a kind of a predictive model you can test on past data. And can you talk about how you would do a process like that with a company and how long such a process would take?
Yeah, so the idea is basically that we want to be transparent, and we want the utility to know what they can expect if they work with us. And very often it's also for them like a change, or like their first project to get close to that topic of predictive data analytics. Usually the first phase of the whole of the working together, we call it speedboat, that takes between 8 and 16 weeks, and we first define a use case. Typically utilities start with predicting churn of their customers, and then we define the required data, and we manage the data acquisition and everything. And then we would set up the energy analytics platform, which means we have to configure the data model according to the data model of the utility company. We have to clean data, we have to enrich data, and this is all done automatically after configuration. And then we are also adapting the algorithms, in this case for predicting churn. and then we would validate our predictions based on their data, like with holdout samples, and then in the end we can see, okay, how good, so what is the potential of their data for predicting their customer behavior. And then they know, okay, the value of a customer is X and a campaign costs me Y, and the prediction is this good, so my return on invest would be Z for this given use case.
Thank you,
so
Claire.
This really helped them to understand what this is all about.
And I think that's very exciting because it means that within 3 months and relatively little input on their side, a company can get a proof of concept driven by external specialists that know what they're doing and how to do it well, whether or not they actually commit to going the full route and implementing the full product with them. There are these outsourced solutions to get started. I think that's very exciting.
Thanks, Sue. In the interest of time, I think we'll keep moving. Thanks, Claire, very much for joining the webinar and sharing your insights.
Thank you.
As I said, Ben Energy is, I think, a good example, and we've been interested at the other examples along the lines of what Sue mentioned, that there are relatively easy ways for companies to get into the analytics area, to experiment, to trial, to outsource. There are different ways as well. Some utilities are insourcing and doing this all themselves, but a wide range of possibilities to engage more and more with analytics. Now, we'll show you one more example before telling you what we're doing next on analytics. The next example I like mainly because when I talk to my wife about this kind of thing, she gets very scared about all the different forms of data that companies have on her and what they can know about her. And the next example, I think, plays out her fears to some degree. So, Sue, I'll let you talk about Target.
Sure. This is coming up about Target, which is a big US retailer. And they're able to predict lifestyle changes. And in particular, one of the things they're able to do is to predict when somebody is pregnant, actually before the mother-to-be knows that they're pregnant. And there was this case that was quite famous where the father of a 16-year-old girl got absolutely furious that his daughter had been sent vouchers for things suitable for pregnant women, and how dare they? Was he trying to encourage 16-year-olds to get pregnant? And the store apologized profusely, and the father came back a month later and said, actually, there's been some activity in my house that I didn't know about, and it seems you were right, and I owe you an apology. So how does Target know? Well, it turns out that there are some 25 product purchases that indicate the likelihood of someone being pregnant, and some of those products include scent-free soap and certain types of vitamin. Now, what's interesting here is that Target didn't seek to predict somebody was pregnant. The system kind of found it almost by accident. And the other thing is that it took a long, long time before Target was able to rationalize why particular products were predictors of pregnancy. Once they found that the correlation existed, they were able to use it and to market and to send vouchers. But this is important for all projects because you don't necessarily know what data you've got is going to drive a predictive model. And in the case of another case study in our case study library, we show how dog ownership as opposed to cat ownership is a big predictor of taking solar systems. Nobody would have known that. Nobody would have guessed that. The data somehow speaks for itself, and it's not always necessary to understand why it's the case. If you can see that it is the case, it can improve your models. The second thing is what Target did with the data. So they had vouchers for products that would be appropriate for the young pregnant women, but they realized that consumers would be extremely worried if they realized how much information was being was known about them. So what they did was cleverly disguise the voucher book. So alongside the vouchers for pregnant women were a whole load of other vouchers that they actually targeted, knowing full well that the customer would not be interested in. So they were really targeting the pregnancy voucher. But when the girl opened the book, they saw a whole load of other products and didn't realize that Target would know that they were pregnant. So they've also given thought in the way that they were marketing this to play down how much knowledge they really have.
So to some people this may seem a bit far-fetched, and how on earth could I use this in the energy industry? But I think the point, Sue, you're making is that if you know your customers well and you know some of the correlations and causalities around things like dog ownership and cat ownership, and if you own a dog, apparently you're more likely to buy a solar panel than if you own a cat, then you can go looking for the right data and you can tailor the right proposition at the right time to the right customer. And in the retail business, that's knowing your customer and tailoring and timing and segmenting your offering to the right customer will enable you to be a successful retailer.
Thank you. And I'd like to add to that just two really quick points. One is that you may not have all the data that could drive the models that you could have. Our Crosssell report covers all the sources of data, all the different places you could get it from, so to augment your database with the richer data that could drive richer models. That's the first point. And the second point is that as retailers and telcos enter the energy market, so they will have some of this power and they will be your competitors in the future.
Thanks, Sue. We've got one question. Claire, if you're still on the line, the
Yes.
question is, in this case, why didn't the utility choose to adopt your campaign or your propensity model?
So what we see is that large utilities prefer to build up the whole data science knowledge in-house. So in this case, they already had a team and they had some tools in place, and they wanted to benchmark their solution with ours. In the end, they were interested into buying like our external data sources that we use to augment the quality of the predictions, but that's not part of our business, so that's why yeah, we didn't do that.
Okay, thanks very much for the clarification. So last part of the webinar, I said 45 minutes max, and we've got a couple more minutes to go, so I'll whiz through this. For those of you that are new to our customer data analytics service, this slide shows the different aspects of our research. What you've just heard about, mainly from Sue, is one of our in-depth reports. The first report we've published on cross-sell and upsell. And this diagram shows a range of other deliverables that we provide and the other type of research that we're looking at. Feel free to browse this. You can download a brochure if you're interested to learn more. You can call us if you're interested to learn more. And our next topic that we're working on, we'd be very interested to talk with you on a one-to-one basis about this and get your questions and your take on this, is looking at electricity demand disaggregation. So looking both at the science of what can be done, so with different granularities of data, to what degree can you disaggregate demand and tell whether what proportion of the load is lights or washing machine or fridge or standby appliances. But more importantly, what value can you generate? There's no good being able to technically do something if there's no opportunity to create value, to get happier customers, to upsell or cross-sell, or to use for demand response, for example. So we're looking in a lot of detail from North America, from across Europe and elsewhere, about what's possible with demand disaggregation from a technical and a value creation point of view. We'd be delighted to talk with you as part of our research on this question. So please don't hesitate to get in touch if you've got questions for us or on this topic, or would like to have an informal conversation on this topic. And some of the other topics that will follow after that, you can see on the right-hand side of this slide. These are open. They'll be fixed dependent on our subscribers' interest. So again, we'd be very interested in your feedback and your views on what topics you'd like to see in our research as we go forward. And again, some more slides that I can send you, or you can get from the webinar. Questions. So we've probably only got time for one question. Let me just have a look at the questions on the line. Sue, this is probably one for you. in our experience, are telcos more advanced in data analytics than utilities? And if so, are they better positioned to win the connected home and then maybe the energy market? A big question, but have you got 20 or 30 seconds of response to that, Sue?
I could spend 30 minutes on that. So
I know you could.
the short answer is yes, they're more sophisticated. And I would encourage you to look at two dimensions. One is the actual analytics and the predictive models, and I think they probably are more sophisticated in those. But the utilities do have quite a lot of predictive models. The second dimension to look in is what they're doing with automated processes and real-time stuff, and they're way ahead of that. Whereas the utilities often have prediction models, but are using those down in the return on investment in the campaign, not in live processes. So I think that's the first point to make. The second point to make is on the connected home. I think they're a bit behind. I don't think anybody is yet doing particularly sophisticated data analytics on connected home, partly because the volumes aren't big enough yet. But the day will come when they will be able to do that, and I think they're better placed to do it, but they're not yet doing it on connected home. And the third thing is when it comes to energy, a cable operator in particular who's doing quite sophisticated bundles and has TV and broadband and everything else may be in a good place to bundle energy with the rest through the sophisticated kind of analysis they're doing on bundling, and it would be difficult for a utility to compete with that. But then when it comes to analytics used to do really detailed in-home energy management and energy efficiency management, I would say that for some years the has the advantage because it's a complex area, and if you get the data analytics and control right yourselves, you have much more knowledge and understanding of the entire value chain. It will take years before the telcos have that.
Lovely.
Thanks
very
much.
So, I think we've reached time now. I've got some echo on the line as well. Let's see if we can get rid of that. So the last slide, please, if you'd like a copy of this presentation, email us. If you email Arthur on the bottom left there, or any of us, then we'll get back to you with a copy of the presentation. The presentation's been recorded. We'll make that available as well. And we're always delighted to talk with you about this topic, whether you're just interested to have an informal discussion or whether you're interested in how our service may be able to help you and add value to your business. So as always, thanks very much for joining and sharing your time with us and allowing us to share our research highlights with you. Please keep in touch with us, register on our website if you're not getting our emails, and we look forward to speaking with you soon, seeing you at events, and perhaps seeing you at our data analytics event at the end of February. Thanks to Claire again for joining and sharing her insights. Thank you, Sue, and thank you everyone for joining. Goodbye.